Okay, call to order this regular session of the Mayor and City Council meeting, 6:08 p.m. Wednesday, October 14th, 2015. Will you please join me in Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Will you please remain standing for our invocation? Mr. Dilly, will you please lead us on?
Sure. Our Father in heaven, we're grateful for this opportunity to be gathered together as a community. We're grateful for our city council members who give up their time to represent and to move forward with the business of the day. We're grateful for the service that we render to one another in this good community, for the charity that we show towards each other. We're grateful to be blessed in a country that exercises the freedoms that we have. We ask, Father, that thy Spirit will be with us tonight, that the business before us will be conducted in a manner pleasing to thee. And we ask for these things and do so in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. On call to the public, we have two calls to the public. Ms. Christine Cortland, would you like to go to the podium and state your name and address, please?
Sure. Here I come. Ready or not. Hello, everyone. My name is Christine Cortland. I live on Noon Street and have since 1979 in Nogales, and we've had a great time here. And now that I'm retired, I get into all sorts of fun things. So I'm here representing the Pimedia Alta Historical Society with our time capsule project. And I know that hopefully most of you know about that, because especially since one of our members here assisted in removing the 1915 time capsule. Thank you, Councilman Parada. And there was a great article in the paper about that, and we have a great display of these things downtown in the museum library, near the library. So I hope that you'll go. But what we're going to do is put some things in for the next 100 years. We have a new time capsule that we have purchased, and it's a little bigger than the one that we got out of space, which is in the pillar of the building. And I know you're timing me, so I'm going to, hopefully I just get to say what I wanted to say. It's more or less, the new one is more or less this size of a stainless steel box. It is a little bit, let's see, wider, and it's a 1 inch higher. So it'll be 6 by 7 by, no, let's see, well, let's see, 6 by 8 by 9, I believe, something like that. And we've had the help of the city people with the preparation for this project. But now it comes to what goes in there. So we've been collecting things in our community that represent us in our area that would be interesting to the next 100-year people who open this. So I would like to, first of all, invite all of you to get involved with this, and you can put in $100 for 100 years by making a pledge here, and there's a form here. Can I pass this around? Sure. I have a couple of them, so if you want to take one, that's okay. You know, we're collecting things small, obviously, small things, but I thought you would find this interesting. Does everybody know what this is? It is, it's a walnut. And how do you say that in Spanish? Nogal, right? So we will put some nogaleses in. And hopefully they won't sprout a tree in the next 100 years inside of this box. So we thought that would be kind of an interesting thing. We have some special preservation materials in which things will be placed. And the deadline is going to be November 1st. So we welcome any individuals or groups that would like to donate to our fundraising as well as membership drive for this $100 for 100 Years project. And you can get a little card with the City Hall picture on it. And can be your family tree, for example. It could be the names of the group members of your organization, say the VFW. Not dropping any names, but and there are lots of ways that you can think of that if you get creative with your family, you can put your family tree there on the piece of paper that we provide with that $100, and that includes a year of membership. So I hope I've confused everybody so far, or hopefully I've made that very clear about what we're doing. We've collected things like lapel pins. We have pens, but we took out the inside so the pen doesn't, the ink doesn't get in there. But we do have corrosive, non-corrosive containers for things. So there's lots of things that we can put in. As you know, connected with Cesar Parada, there's the old City Hall building, which is where the Pimeria Alta Historical Society stands now at the museum, was the old City Hall, and it was especially used by the volunteer firemen at that time, and most of the things that they put in 1915 were from that time, from that group. So we have grown as a city and a community, as you can tell. So we want to include things. So if you have any ideas, we would welcome those. However, the decisions will be made by the committee that I'm representing tonight. So let's see, are there any questions that you have, I hope? Can you think of anything? And the other project we are doing, actually, is just for fun, for display purposes only. We have a glass enclosure, and we thought that to get the community involved, we invite anyone to bring in something that they think would be interesting to be in there, whether it gets in or not. Somebody said, a cell phone, things like that. We're not going to put a big computer in there, obviously, but a thumb drive has been suggested. So those are, if you think, what represents our Nogales community, our border community. So I hope you're thinking right now, what would be something that you could come up with, and you could bring that into the museum and let us know if you really want it back. So we have things that represent children in Nogales. We have things that represent, we're starting to gather things from clubs. So if you're involved in any other clubs, in the city, I would really welcome you to get involved with this project. So I think that's my 5. So please ask me a question. Come on.
We'll take some stuff over from the VFW.
That would be great. That would be so great.
We have some old newspapers from 1945.
Great. Oh, that's wonderful. And we are asking for group photos. Perhaps we could suggest that there would be one of the council and the mayor, but it has to be 4x6. A group photo would be really greatly appreciated, because we have these little sleeves that are going to go in, and they'll be protected, and your names can be on there. So you'll be recognized to not your children. I don't think even your grandchildren. What are we talking here? I think it'll be 3 generations. So it's really exciting, I think. So that would be really great, whatever. And we do have photos too, of course, at the museum that we will be putting in and making them that size as well. So we have some buildings already and things like that, like the VFW building we have. So there are things that we have already got. So okay, that's a good comment.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
I have a question.
Good.
How many items have you received at this point? Could you give us an update?
Well, we've collected, our committee has collected maybe 15, 20 things. Yeah, and we're working on that right now this
And your
week.
goal would be, how many items
Well,
would
if
you
you
like
see,
to get?
it's not
Yeah.
the number, it's the size. And
Right.
we
That's-
hope to have 100 cards sold for the $100, that's the goal. So that would be about an inch thick of cards that are smaller than 4 by 6. I don't remember what their size is, I think it's 3 by 5, actually. So I don't know, I can't give you a number,
But
but we have
you would
3D.
estimate maybe 200, 300 items in there?
Hard to say, we
It's-
have
it's kinda
flags,
difficult.
we're gonna add little flags of Arizona, United States, and Mexico, because it's so important to us on the border that we have our neighbors. And the consulate is working on something, I don't know what that will be, but it's hard to guess, that's a good question, but you're invited to come. We'll have a celebration on November 19th, but the deadline is coming up way before that. November 1st is the deadline for this collection, so I hope I'm not too late. I hope you still have time to collect things at your homes, in your clubs, and get the word, help me get the word out in the community as well, so. I don't know if I answered your question, or was
Yes,
I
you
maybe?
did.
Oh, good.
Thank you very much.
Okay, you're welcome.
I think you wrote down that the cards are 3 by 4s.
Okay, that's it,
I-
then
3
that's
by 4
correct,
inches.
okay, I stand corrected. 3 by 4 inches, so they're small, so we can get the stack in, and like I said, it's a little bigger than this thing. So, I wanna thank, those of you who have helped us with this project and are going to help us, and I wanna give, special recognition to Susie Steins and Faith Posey, who's not here tonight, and, Renee Bafford Guevara, who are helping with this committee as well, and Lois Morris too, so, thank you very much. And,
Thank you.
thank you very
Appreciate
much
that
for your
information.
time
Thank you.
tonight. So, oh, and I have money too, I found in my pocket a 2015 penny. So if anyone has any 1915 pennies, we're looking for one of those.
I guess next on call to the public, we have Mr. Scott Vandervey, but we have you down on order number 6. Did you want to discuss this at this time, or
Yeah.
or you want to go up to the podium? All right, just give us your name and address and.
Scott Vanderholt, 1434 East Bristol Drive, Nogales. In respect to the final item on the agenda packet, the lease by the city of approximately 2.5 acres of land from the Menier's deed. In the agenda packet, it states that Anderson Construction Corporation suggests building a soccer field with the dimensions of 100 yards long by 60 yards wide. It doesn't, I didn't find anything within the packet saying whether the city would follow that recommendation. So I wanted to get up here and say I thought that you should. The most recently constructed field by the city, Hohokam, is approximately 80 to 85 yards in length and 40 to 45 yards wide. That's not really big enough to accommodate 22 adult players or even teenage players, which would be a full game, a full soccer game. It's a very nice field for younger children. The global governing body of soccer, FIFA, recommends at least 100 yards in length for a full-size soccer field. Another couple of issues to address with that potential project would be shade. Neither Turley nor Hohokam have adequate shade along the sides for either observers or players, right? And in the summertime, the sun can be kind of brutal. So I'd recommend you include plans for shade trees. And also on that field, on the east side, assuming there's a goal, a soccer goal on that side, you might want to consider a fence because there's housing behind that. One of the things we see in Turley Field is that the ball ends up in the wash, right? When it gets kicked over the goal. And so I can see a potential issue there with balls ending up in people's backyards. So a fence of maybe 12 feet would probably mitigate a lot of potential issues with the residents there. And one other item I wanted to address on the agenda, consent agenda, item I, in regards to the project, the considered project of bicycle path paving. It says on the agenda, packet, the construction of a bicycle/pedestrian path on the east shoulder. It wasn't clear if that was meant to be within the roadway or above and outside of the shoulder. For cycling, I think, anything you can do to remove the cyclist from the path of vehicles is a win-win. And it would make the path much more user-friendly for cyclists and safer for everybody around. So it wasn't clear on the agenda packet what that description conceptualized, if it would be within the roadway or above and outside. So,
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, this is under call to the public, but I would, Scott, be more than happy to get you in direct contact with our city engineer and our public works director that can answer that specific question for you, and to take those comments and make sure that we're trying to address it the best we can.
thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. I guess that's all we have to call to the public.
Yes, sir.
I noticed here before we go to the presentation, we have a couple of scouts in the room. I'm sure that you're probably out here doing, working on one of your badges or something. Would you boys like to step up and just give you the name of your name, the troop you belong to, and what badge you're working on, just to let us know? Thank you, appreciate that.
Fearless. Love it.
Hi, my name is Dagoberto Rodriguez, and this is Mario Sandoval. We're from Troop 508 in Rio Rico, and we're working on the Citizenship in the Community Merit Badge. And we have to attend a town meeting.
We have to interview someone, which, yeah, we're gonna interview some
Can
people.
somebody help me with a mic there, because it's a little far from him.
Speak up, young man.
Or you can speak to the crowd. There you go.
Alright, so, yeah, we're working on a merit badge, and we need to interview some people for this citizenship in the community, and
And we need to discuss about issues and how we can solve it and what branch of government can help fix it. So right now we're in
Good.
Mr. Mayor?
Thank you. Yes,
I'm a counselor for that particular merit badge, and I'd be happy to meet with you.
Thank you.
yeah. Get some good tips, and maybe, does that mean that you'll also work with the consulate that we have here?
Yeah. We have to interview someone maybe after this, about their role and just how young people can help with issues.
Great. Well, I hope we get a report on that when you're all done. Appreciate that. Thank you very much. Thank you for joining us tonight. Thank you, Mr. Dilly. Offering to give him a hand and some good tips. I guess we'll go to number 5 presentation. We have an update on PRS by Mr. Tom Balchi from the League of Arizona Cities and Towns.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. I'm Tom Belshi. I'm the Deputy Director of the League of Arizona Cities and Towns, and I promise, a brief update on what we are working on for PSPRS reform. I'm not sure how many of you are familiar, but the League, let me just open up this, and I promise it's 3 slides, and that is it. So.
Yeah, right.
I'm only using 3 of those slides.
Oh, okay.
One of the things that the legislature is taking a look at the public safety personnel retirement system. That's the retirement system for our firefighters and our police officers. And one of the things that they're trying to do is to make sure 2 things: that firefighters receive and police officers receive a good benefit and that the program is sustainable. And so one of the things that the legislature asked the cities and towns to do was to provide some input from a staff point of view. What kinds of things do we think ought to be changed to make the system better? And so, again, the League of Cities is not putting together what is recommend.
Tom, I'm sorry to interrupt, I really am. Could you just back up just one step and explain why the legislature is even looking at this, why a committee has been formed, why recommendations are coming forward, just so we can all put it into context, and maybe that adds one more slide to your presentation, but.
It doesn't. Like anything else, this issue is one that's being driven by the legislature. Senator Lesko and several of the senators and representatives in the House of Representatives are getting together and have been talking for a while now about the fact that the financial situation of the personnel retirement system is not doing very well. Its funding level had been low, and there had been some issues with some of the governance of the system itself. And so, again, whenever the legislature starts to drive these kinds of things, and it involves cities and towns, we are always happy when they come to us and ask us to provide input to that. But it is because of some issues that were happening with the personnel retirement system. The cities, in this instance, the league is not creating its own recommended program. We're simply saying, here are some things, if you want to know what does a healthy system look like, these are the things that need to be included in that. And what we did is we called that document the yardstick. In other words, we're going to measure the recommendations that come from different parties against that yardstick. One of the things that we think is important is you hear things called, when we're talking about the benefits for the firefighters and police officers, we're talking about what cities and towns believe it needs to be a defined benefit. Okay, that means that when you talk about a percentage of your salary for a number of years, there's also something called a defined contribution. That's more like a 401k type of program. Okay, cities and towns think that when we're talking about firefighters and police officers, that a defined benefit plan is really the best way to go. And so that's one of the things that we think needs to stay in. Also, we've spent a lot of time and money in court over challenges. We've tried to fix the current system instead of saying, okay, the current system is what it is, but going forward, we're going to make some changes, and therefore, what we have, we're going to have to live with and pay for, but going forward, we're going to find a way to make that sustainable by making a few changes. And so we believe that anything that we put together and move forward needs to be free from legal challenge. Every time that we have taken a look back where we have tried to make changes to the current system, it has been defeated in court. And we think that's just an exercise in beating our head against the wall. So again, we're thinking that we need to just create a new tier that goes to our next bullet, which is a new statewide tier of all the new officers that come on. And going forward from that point, we make changes to the system. I'm going to talk a little bit about the plan elements of the new tier and the governance structure that we're advocating, or that we think is part of the new a good system. Okay, one of the things that right now there are 256 different boards that make up this retirement system. We think that like the Arizona state retirement system, the closer that we get that number to one, where we all have the same contribution rates, where we're all directed under the same set of policies, the more that we can get that closer to one body, the better off we are. Now, we've had discussions about having regional bodies, but lowering that number down to a manageable number. We think one is the best, but again, that's up to the people who are really working on this legislation. We think that whatever we do needs to be able to be fully funded. And that means if we can't make reasonable assumptions about interest rate on the money that we invest and other things that lead to that funding of 100%, then we need to curtail what we're asking for so that we can fit within those bounds. Because unless it's funded at 100%, we're going to continue just to create debt. And that doesn't work for anyone. It doesn't work for the personnel, it doesn't work for the cities. And so we think that is not just a goal, that's something that is a necessity. We think there needs to be equal cost sharing between the employer and the employee contribution rates. We think that's achievable right now. We've created that equilibrium in the state retirement system, and we think we can do the same with PSPRS. Pension increases should be made to maintain, again, purchasing power. Instead of adding to the benefit, we want to make sure that what that police officer, that firefighter is earning, that we maintain that purchasing power as long as they're in the system. And then also, one of the things that we discussed a lot as part of this is that some fire departments are not part of the federal retirement system. Why is that name escaping me right now? Social Security, thank you. I always love help from the audience. The Social Security program, they were given the option to opt out of Social Security. And so one of the things that we're going to do now in order to add that third leg back to the stool as far as the funding is concerned, we are going to offer an optional part to those city fire departments that don't have Social Security, something like a 401k program that they can put money into, that the city will invest in, that will be like Social Security for those officers. So again, the idea that all cities and towns being equal, having the same opportunity for all of the different benefits that are offered. So those are the plan elements of the new tier. The good news is we agree on nearly all of this with the firefighters and police officers that we've been working with. And there will be a bill moving forward that has these items in it, and we feel very good about our progress at this point. Finally, what I want to talk about, though, is something that eludes us a little bit, and that's the governance structure. Again, the state retirement system has one body that it covers all of its employees. That's still eludes us. We're still working on that issue. Again, trying to eliminate, trying to go from 256 boards down to as few as possible. Also, when it comes to disability committees, this is one area in which the costs of the system have really exploded, and that is in the area of workman's comp and disability. And so one of the things that we're trying to do, again, is help to make the workplace safer, and also to find a way to get qualified, independent disability committee members on that board. We have just started this discussion. Those governance issues that we're talking about we're working towards those. We're making good progress, getting a little bit of back and forth, and again, we hope to have this as part of the overall bill. There will be a bill. It will be sponsored by Senator Lesko, Debbie Lesko. She is the same one that sponsored the TPT reform. Apparently, she likes to take on big, ugly projects, and so she's going to be taking on this one as well. It is our hope that there will be a consensus on this bill, and that we'll be able to move forward. We can support something that will be good for the cities, good for the officers and the firefighters, and something that the people can support. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Well, I'm just wondering then, what are the points that are making it unsustainable at this point, the old plan, the plans that's in effect right now?
Well, Mr. Mayor, whenever you have change, I think people are used to, the firefighters and the police officers are used to having their local board. They're used to having, the decision-making done there. They feel that if they turn it back into one big system, that their voices may not be heard locally. And so that's why we're talking about possibly regional boards and those kind of things. But again, the problem is that when you have as many boards as we have, and you have different contribution rates, and you have different levels of risk with each of those, you have situations that happen like happened in Prescott. When we had the tragic loss of those 19 firefighters, it nearly devastated the town because they took on all that risk of all those firefighters. It makes it, having the risk shared by one pool makes it a lot easier. Now, the question on the other side, what's pointed out on the other side, is a very good point, is if we do that, if we share the risk across, it also means sometimes we had very low risk, we manage our risks well at the local level, and we may be picking up the riskier behavior. It's, you know, and so that's one of the things that we have to work on, that we have to think about when we're doing this, is how do we make sure that all of the police departments act in the best interest of everyone in the pool. I'll just give you an example of how something similar works, and the city of Nogales belongs to the Arizona Municipal Risk Retention Pool. And you know, the 77 cities belong to that pool, and we have the same kind of thing. We share risks of liability with 77 cities. And we're able, and so if one city is getting sued, we have the resources of all the cities to help. Now, some cities do risky things, and so we work with them to make sure that we decrease that risky behavior. So we're hopeful that we can do those same kind of things with the PSPRS system. So that's just an example of one of the things that we're talking about, but we think it's something that we can work out.
So, and this new bill is going to address a lot of those issues? Or?
Yes, yes. And when we have that bill language, and when we have the final version, we will be letting the councils across the state know what things we like, what things we think may need to be changed. But it's our hope right now that we can say we're supportive of everything when it's introduced.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Quick question. Tom, there are some cities, because of the contribution rates and the risk that they take, they're paying some pretty high percentages on the dollar to be a part of this retirement program. I've heard numbers as high as, and I don't even know, I mean, I've heard numbers as high as like 90%.
Actually, the highest that I've heard of is 65.
65%.
But that's still
so
very high.
That's 65 cents on the dollar that particular city, that particular employer is paying, you know, to have, wow, okay.
Yeah, and so, again, we think that there's a lot of reasons that we've gotten to this point. What we're trying to do now is move forward, and we think that things I talked about before, the new tier and the plans that we have for that, we think that those will greatly reduce that. But we also think there's some things some governance structure issues that we need to change. And then hopefully we can arrive at the kind of balance that we see in the state retirement system, where we're both paying 12%.
Yeah.
Employers and employees, we're both invested in it, and we're both invested equally. And we have an equal incentive to act to reduce the risk.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. You know, in a sense, Mayor and Council, what the state is working through right now is very much like what you guys are working through with the OPEB liability committee and dealing with that liability that we have on our books, where you have recommendations coming to you from a committee, and those recommendations are to make strategic, well thought out changes in the structure to try to alleviate that, you know, that liability that's hanging over our heads. So that makes a lot of sense.
That's how we're going to be able to sustain. I hope. So it takes a lot of planning and now this is are you using the other retirement system that the state offers kind of a guideline, or?
Well, in some respects, but in other respects, and I think the firefighters and the police officers can tell you, it's quite a bit different. But we're using we think some of the governance things that the state retirement system does. They were in a similar position. They were down at 80% funded not too long ago. And then by making some changes and cutting some costs and doing some other things, they were able to get back up to 100% funded. And so we're looking to do some of those things. But the retirement system for the police officers is different, and it's because it's a higher risk occupation that they belong to. And so we have to be aware of those things, and so it does create some differences. And so we've spent a lot of time. This is, the task force took over a year in putting this together, and we talked to some national associations about best practices. We're also working with a group called the Reason Foundation. Although we don't agree with everything that they're espousing, we think they have some very good ideas and lots of experience from other states. And so we're including some of the things that they're advocating. And so, but the most important thing to us is, again, since the firefighters, we have a responsibility to take care of the firefighters and police officers. We want to do that by making sure it's sustainable. And that's our biggest goal. We want them to be happy with the plan, and as employers, we want to be able to pay for it.
Any more questions from the council?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Tom, is anybody disagreeing with the system? Is anybody satisfied with the system?
Well, it depends on what perspective you have. I guess that if I'm sure that the firefighters and the police officers like the benefits that they get from the program. And from that standpoint, yes, but the problem is that right now we have a very high unfunded liability. And so that's the problem that we're dealing with. It's not that the system itself and the benefits aren't good, it's that the way that we've structured it and the way that we are trying to pay for it doesn't work. And that's why, we're getting, it's interesting, and I don't know if you've had this opportunity, Shane, to share, I don't know how much your unfunded liability here is in Nogales, but it's significant in a lot of cities and towns. So I guess what I would say is that it depends on who you talk to as to whether they're fully satisfied or they're not fully satisfied. I think, again, it's not a problem with the idea of the system itself, it's making sure that we can sustain it.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Mayor.
Any more questions? Mr. Belchi, thank you very much for that presentation. We appreciate the information, and I guess we'll be keeping an eye on that.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
My pleasure, Mr. Mayor. And as I said, as soon as we have language and some idea of where it's going, we'll make sure and communicate that with you.
Thank you very much. Going to number 6, discussion items. I guess we have number 1, the discussion and possible direction to staff. Determine the items that will be included in the agenda for an upcoming joint meeting between the City Council and the County Board of Supervisors. Mr. Lucero, Vice Mayor Lucero put that on there, and I guess he wasn't going to be able to be in town this week, so I think what we're looking at is probably sometime in November to try to get together with, I don't know if any of you have an update on that?
Mr. Mayor, no update at this point, other than November has been the target month in terms of the last correspondence that I've had with the county manager. And so I think the idea tonight was to gather some quick thoughts from the council on maybe some, kind of some big picture topics that you wanted to make sure was included on that agenda. Staff will take, notes on that. We'll work up some kind of draft agenda, and I'll get that fired over to Mr. Rivera for their consideration and their response. And then we'll start working out a date in November that works for both entities.
Yes, Mayor.
I'd like to put in some items on that agenda about Durango Street out there on Veracruz and Durango, in that area on the back up River Street. I think they came up with a plan to put some detention ponds along to protect it from the overflow of the flooding area. So I want an update, we're working with them, whatever they have for us, on those retention dams that they were supposed to be building on that area to avoid the flooding that's been going on Durango Street.
So maybe a general update on their flood control
Right.
projects.
Right, and,
Not only that, I wanna, well, yeah, the flood control, like, I seen a lot of arroyos here full of brush, and we need to have a good cleanup. Because doesn't mean that the rains are over, the monsoon rain season is gone. We have a winter rains that come in very regular and a high storms that can create a lot of flooding. So we need to keep an update on the cleaning of the channels and arroyos.
also another thing, I guess we have, some projects that maybe, will be joint on some street paving, that we need to bring up. I don't know if we need to be specific on those items or not, or just in general, just bring them up and then probably take a direction from there.
We can have a title, we can have kind of an overall title of possible joint projects. And whether it's streets or parks or whatever, it can all kind of funnel into that general topic. And from, again, probably best to have general category type topics so that both the board and the city council can have a dialogue that they need to have, and what comes out at the end is direction to either county staff by the board of supervisors or city staff by the city council to start making things happen and do a return report. So that's kind of the idea of this meeting. So I can have joint projects, and you guys can talk about that.
So right now, we have the opportunity to start thinking of the items that we need to work on. And I think all of us got some items to put on the agenda. So when we go out there, we have a combined meeting, we can discuss those items. One of the items I would like is IGA is work together and chip and seal some of our streets that can be chip and seal, so we can make our town look a lot better. Some of the streets that can be done. We've done it before in the past, so I don't know if we do it again.
We have that option. We have that option available to us already, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, good.
So I know that there's been dialogue between Public Works. I know that all they need to do is update their quote to us on a I don't know if they go by a mile or, usually they do it per mile. Per lane mile. They do a per lane mile quote, and then we would just, if it seems to fit with us and our project, then, we'll do it.
This will be a great improvement in the city, get into those streets, man.
I'm kind of happy that our counterparts here in the county supervisor, the board of supervisors are willing to sit down together, and I think we'll be able to accomplish quite a bit. There seems to be some good harmony coming out between both of us, and we need to follow up on that and make sure and kind of build up on it. So I think that way the community will benefit from it. So I would recommend that if there's something else that the citizens of our community have been placing in our minds, that we can work jointly together for that cause, we have time to start bringing it up. And even if we don't take care of all the business that we bring up, at least start getting together and heading in that direction. I guess pretty much is that what you were looking for, kind of a sense of direction to see what we're going to put on the agenda? Or?
Yeah, so absolutely, Mayor. I think what I probably need to do is give you guys a deadline then to get your thoughts into staff. I know the vice mayor probably had intended to try to zero in on and define a list tonight, but I think giving some more time for you guys to mull that over and think it through makes a lot of sense. So, what if we said, have your thoughts into either my office or John, by next Wednesday. So that gives you a week. We can then take that, and then really at that point we'll probably need to just cut it. So put some thought into that, because then we'll be tossing back and forth an agenda between the city and the county and getting something finalized. So if that a week amount of time works for you guys, then that'll be the deadline, and then we'll finalize it with the county.
I think that's a good idea. I don't think we need to be too burdensome. I'm sure some of us are gonna have the same thoughts, and I'm sure they're gonna have some projects, and so
No doubt.
we wanna make sure that they're encouraged, and we're encouraged that we don't wanna go through a long dragged out meeting, or that we won't meet again for a while. We'd like to actually have meetings, you know, within maybe, say, every quarter, or whatever's agreeable to them. But I wouldn't like to go beyond a quarter and have that, you know, start building up on that relationship and be more in communication, because, like I say, I think they'll agree that the ones that benefit our community, and I think that's what it's all about, that those projects help the community.
So what I'll do is when I get the input, what I'll try to just, you know, put them, if there's relationships between your ideas, I'll try to put them all together under some broader category. Because I think that's gonna give you the most flexibility to talk about it. So even if Wednesday, the deadline comes and, you know, you get to the meeting, the category might be broad enough for you. If something else comes to mind, you can bring it up and talk about it. And then the idea probably is to have maybe 4 or 5 item agenda, so that you're not looking at a 4 or 5 hour meeting. You're, you know, something you guys can really take away some deliverables and moving the two agencies in more of a same direction.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Councilman Rowe?
Shane, has the staff, the department heads, gotten together along with you and discussed any items at this point?
We started a discussion on Monday in our directors meeting. I would imagine that discussion is going to continue to next Monday. So we'll be able to pair that stuff up with the information that we start getting in from you as a council.
Was anything brought up?
You know, obviously some of the low hanging fruit, the animal control, you know, the IGA, so it maybe it'd be a broad category on IGAs. You know, the library services,
Elections?
things like that, elections. We know that we got information from the county that they're making a change in their election policy and how they administer that. It's not gonna be in-house from what we understand. They're gonna contract that service out, which does have an impact on us, and we probably ought to be thinking through that a little bit as a city.
Could you provide us with a summary or an update of those discussions to us?
Sure. Would you like that? When would you like that? I mean, the next time I'd have a discussion with the directors would be next Monday. I suppose at the end of the day, on Monday, I can have a report back to you guys in terms of what those discussions are.
Yeah.
And then
Or
that
we
gives
could
you-
attend.
And that gives you a couple of days then to work off of that, to give us your thoughts, you know, in terms of where you'd like to go. Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, any more input? Okay, all right. Thank you very much. We'll take it from there then. On number 2, discussion and possible direction, creation of the Economic Development Task Force and Tourism Task Force. I believe we kind of left some guidelines the last meeting, and I think Mr. Mike, you were going to kind of take a leading role in that. I don't know.
Mr. Mayor, maybe I can just kick it off real quick.
Okay.
At one of your last council meetings, where it was determined that you would actually create 2 different task forces, one focused on tourism, the other focused on economic development. Names were thrown out, and then there was a follow-up call by Mr. White to each of you to give you another opportunity to say, hey, do you want to add to or take away from that list? Once that was all done, Mr. White has reached out to those names, and for the most part, we feel there's enough interest by the names submitted and the willingness to contribute to the cause to actually move forward with these task forces. In a discussion previous to tonight's meeting with Vice Mayor Lucetto, it was his suggestion that we go ahead and move forward tonight, recognizing that the council's direction was these are task forces with sunsets imposed on them. In other words, the council wants to have reports back from these task forces by the end of December this year. So they don't have a lot of time. Understanding all of that, what Mr. White has done is he's taken the bylaws, for the most part, that the council approved for the old EdTab board and broken that out. Also understanding the fact that there was some specific guidelines that the council gave out when we created the two task forces. And we took those bylaws and broke them out over economic development and over tourism. So we have samples of, not samples, we actually have the drafts of these, one of each, for you tonight. What we're hoping tonight is to receive direction from the council to go ahead and actually give the green light for these two task forces to meet and start the dialogue that needs to happen in order for them to bring forward recommendations back to the city council. So we're here tonight to answer any questions that you might have, but at this point, we feel like the bylaws, cover enough structure for the task forces to get started, and we can kind of work with them as staff to make sure that they're successful.
Do we need any kind of opinion from legal, or?
The comfort here is that for the most part, you guys have already had your eyes on these bylaws because they came from your OPEB liability, or I'm sorry, not your OPEB, your EdTab group, sorry. Your EdTab group, which had a set of bylaws that did go through a formal approval process with the city council. So having said that, we felt pretty comfortable just being able to present it to you tonight and get general direction to move forward so that these two task forces could get started.
So will Mr. White kind of be leading the charge in that, as far as getting the groups together, because they're gonna have to form, they're gonna have to get their, the board, and I guess they're gonna have to have their elections.
Mayor Aaron will staff these two task forces just like he staffed the EdTech group, and make sure that they have the bylaws in front of them, and he's there to support them and help them. I'll be available as well. And the whole idea is that they're successful and they can bring back to the city council their thoughts based off of their expertise and their interest in this community being a better place in the future. So.
Is there any questions from the council or input that you'd like to provide?
One comment here. Task force sounds like a military action. Task force is used in military terms.
I think what it was, the reason that was used was mostly that we were short of time and we needed to get something going quick, and so they kind of formed that. But I'm sure we could change the.
Mr. Members of the council, I really wouldn't let your mind go too far on that. The term task force in municipal government, it's often used by city councils to have these ad hoc groups get out there and take care of very strategic things that you need them to do. So, we can change the name, but I don't want to spend too much time on that. I think the general idea is understood, and that the council wants these guys to really kind of get engaged and move forward with some recommendations.
One more question.
Yes, sir.
Are they going to have any budget authority?
No, Mr. Mayor, I'm happy to.
Well, I guess that's one of the things that we're gonna have to discuss and find out, see, I think it's smart when they start presenting, the needs of it, maybe we'll discuss that at that time.
Mr. Mayor, can I add to what you just said?
Okay.
Please. The idea of these task force groups is different than the EdTab board. The idea of these task force groups, at least initially, is that basically they're going to be think tanks for this council. They're going to get out there, they're going to grab an issue, whether it's in tourism or economic development, and then they're going to work to come up with solutions and ideas, all to be brought back to the city council for consideration. Now, stemming from that, the council might say, hey, this is a great idea. It needs some dollars behind it. let's have the discussion we need to have to see if we can find that money. And you might even say, hey, task force, would you be willing to carry this thing out now? But at least right now, it's this idea, think tank, let's get some recommendations going, and that's what their real charge is right now.
Any other questions?
So they have to report to us by December? Some kind of idea or
Hopefully we'll get some input before then.
some input by December?
The recommendations, as it was laid out, the recommendations from these two groups is due by the end of the calendar year to the city council.
So we'll have progress report on this.
Oh, the December meeting. So that's even shorter, right?
I think that'll probably be pushed out a little bit, just given timeframes and holidays and things like that.
But you'll give us a progress report in between.
Oh, for sure. Well, preferably, you know, I wouldn't be that messenger. The elected chairman of each of these task forces would be the messenger coming before the mayor. Yeah, I'll get those up front.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, so it looks like we got that pretty much underway. Here we get to the heart of the matter.
So do we have general consensus from the council to move forward? Let's get this going.
Right, definitely. I think,
Just need to make sure we're all on the same page.
okay, do we need a vote on that or just?
No vote.
We all, I think we're pretty much all in.
We're good.
So we're pretty much all on the same page to get this underway and get it going. And we get to the heart of the matter, consent agendas. I guess we have a motion to go from A to I. So move. Second. And accept them all. Okay, open for discussion? No, okay, we're pretty much all covered that, and I think they're all the items that we support, so all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. Carried. Got that?
Yep.
All right, good. Now we'll go into the orders. Number 8.1, and we have consideration and possible action of order 2015-10-081. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved, Mayor.
Any discussion? We got a second by Mr. Diaz and Mr. So, seeing no discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, ayes have it, motion carried. Number 2, consideration and possible action of order 2015-10-083. Do I have a
So moved, Mayor.
motion? Okay, we have motion to approve, first and second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carried. Number 3, consideration and possible action of order 2015-10-084. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, first and second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carried. Number 4, consideration and possible action of order 2015-10-085. Do I have a motion to approve?
Second.
We have a first and second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it, motion carried. Number 5, consideration and possible action of order 2015-10-086. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved, Mayor.
Second?
Okay, we have a first and second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it, motion carried. Number 6, consideration and possible action of order 2015-10-087. Do I have a motion to approve?
Second.
Okay, we have first and second, any discussion?
Mr. Mayor, I know that previously there were some concerns. Could we have staff look into that?
Actually, I'd like to invite Marcel to come up, if you could, sir, and maybe just generally field that question from Scott.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, in reference to the question that Mr. Vandervoort asked, if this council had already approved the recommendation by Mr. Anderson, that is correct. So I don't know exactly the dimensions, but I know that the task was to take advantage of as much of that property and make it into a green area. Okay. So I don't know if that answers Mr. Vanderwood's question. Okay. As far as some of the errant balls, especially on the west end, I guess it would be. I know that part of the school district's responsibility is to put a fence along that portion of the facility. How high that fence is at this point in time, I don't know, but given the concern, I would definitely make sure I sit down with their staff to let them know that there would be some concern, because that would be locked off to the general public. So I can still have that conversation with the school district. So, okay.
Yes.
Marcel, is there opportunity at this point, or at least contemplated in the near future, to consider some kind of shade, tree, addition to that effort? Something that over time can help out.
Into the future, sure, that's something that can be looked into.
Is there a walk path contemplated on
Correct.
this?
Yes, I think an 8 or 10-foot walking path all the way around the perimeter of that field as well.
Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you very much for that report and information. It looks like a promising field. Hopefully you'll get plenty of use, and if it needs some of those things, hopefully we can work together with the IGA and Polite. I guess that pretty much is a discussion that we're gonna have, or if there's any other input or more questions? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it, motion carried. And I guess we're down to the city manager's report.
Mr. Members of the council, I have made note of a couple of reports that have been asked for, so we'll make sure that we get those into your boxes. We have to deal with our fleet and the strength of that fleet, what the conditions of our equipment is in, so I'll be working to get that out to the council. Just make sure it's on your radar. The Employee Health and Wellness Fair is coming up on October 28th. It's kind of a new format. In years past, we've done it in a single block of time, encouraging employees to come in on their lunch break. The committee that's been kind of moving this whole effort forward wanted to take make a little change in that schedule. Rather than do it over a lunch break, do it in one of two shifts, either a morning shift from a 9 to 12 or an afternoon shift from a 1 to 4. So the hope is, the desire is to get as many of our employees to the event in that day as we can. Obviously, wellness education impacts the bottom line. If we as employees are healthier, then we're more productive and we hit the insurance less, and it just one of those trickle effects. I brought this up with my son, and he said, "Great, Dad, I'm working on a personal fitness merit badge, so come run with me and do push-ups." And I'm sore, but he's keeping me young. But that's what this is all about, right? So Hope to see you guys there. It should be a great event. The council has authorized work to be done by consultants on a rate assessment for our utility funds, our water, sewer, and sanitation, as well as a fee study. That's different. The rate is, the consumption side of the service. The fee is additional costs that are incurred by the city needing to get reimbursed. Sometimes it's penalties by being delinquent or what have you. All of that is well underway. We expect to have those reports to us November and December with presentations from the consultant right here in front of you with those recommendations in hand and opportunity for you to discuss things. So just want to make sure you're aware of that timeline. A memo has been prepared and has been made available to you guys in your boxes. Just also wanted you to know that the compensation study, the request for proposals has gone out. And the proposals went out to over 14 different vendors across the country. We expect to have a good turnout on that. Some of them are here in the state, but many of them are outside of the state. We expect to have proposals in by the end of this month, which is the deadline. So more to come on that, but we're moving forward based off of the direction of council. I do have, Mr. Mayor and Council, a list of, there's 2 pages. Sorry, there's 2 pages. But it's a memo that identifies what's coming up on your next study session. Those items include an update by the Public Works on the installation of time clocks and the GPS devices. So that'll be coming up on your next study session agenda, as well as everything else that's on this memo. Okay, so look for that. It's scheduled for October 28th. That's Wednesday at 4:30 p.m. Okay. Does that date kind of work for everybody?
I don't know why that date kind of rings a little bell. I guess something like that.
It's a 27th.
What are we doing?
27th Tuesday. So it's a 27th,
28 sounds good. I'm hoping that.
We can adjust. Right now, let's keep it at the 28th mark. It seems to work best for all of us on Wednesdays, but if something needs to change, we can be flexible. But that's the list of things that we're scheduled to discuss. Okay. The West Pressure Zone project, very expensive project. We've got a lot of grant monies from WIFA and the Arizona Commerce Authority. That's well underway. The contractor has finished the distribution, the supply and distribution line, and if they haven't already, they would be starting the construction on the foundation and the actual tank itself. So you should start seeing some stuff coming up out of the ground on that project. And then last but certainly not least, we've received a couple of calls on some well-established retailers that want to come into Nogales and open up shop, occupying the only vacant lot there in the Mariposa Mall in that corner, and then occupying the vacant store left when Dee Dee's moved out there at this. Is that where Walmart used to be? Is that where Walmart used to be? So stay tuned. Can't release names right now. It's still kind of under the confidentiality stuff, but pretty exciting stuff. I'm excited to hear the news. So we'll keep you informed with as much information as we can on that. And I guess this is okay. Here you go. This is a report from Aaron on the Mexico City reconnaissance trip that Councilmember Diaz, Mr. Machado, and Aaron White took. It's just a report on their activities and the outcomes. They've already received some inquiry from other business industry because of their rubbing shoulders. in terms of an interest to locate here in the city of Nogales. So, you know, all good news. Anytime that we can represent well, it's to our benefit. So this is a report on that trip as well. That's it for my report, Mr. Mayor. Members of the council, happy to answer any
I guess
questions.
from that report, I'll build a little on it, on that Mexico initiative. About the same time, I was invited by, I guess, Mayor Rick Stanton from Phoenix, was spearheading a group of mayors, and it's a historical group because it's the first time that we get 6 mayors from the state of Arizona to go down to Mexico City and talk to the higher, like I said, higher echelon, or the higher brass, or we're short of seeing the president of Mexico. So we spoke to a lot of people in high places. We had a lot of, it was a very hectic schedule, grueling schedule. We were up there from the 4th to the 7th, and we were up at 7 o'clock, heading out the lobby, going to the meetings, conferences, universities. We went to 2 of them. We were panelists there. We were drilled by the students, American policy, immigration, and drugs. They came up with all kinds of questions, but the good thing was that we were on the same page, and since we were on also a trade and commerce, but also goodwill mission, we wanted to kind of overcome, let them know that the spirit in Arizona is one that respects Mexico. We've always been engaged with them. Those things that I guess are being said on the campaign trail by some of the, I'll mention it, Mr. Trump, have no reality here in Arizona. The majority of the people here in Arizona, to start off with, are Hispanic. And so we went on that mission, and we took a proclamation signed by the 6 mayors. And I got a copy, or draft here of the proclamation, and it's, you know, I guess what I'll have it is, have it maybe posted here in City Hall. I don't want to take all your time and read it. It's a page and a half. So, but aside from that, I guess the highlight of it. Well, I felt that we had everything was pretty much, you know, it seemed like a highlight every day, but it finally reached its climax at the end. Even the night before, we gave speeches to a group of about 80 politicos over there, or leaders, undersecretaries, people from the cabinet. It was great. They responded very well to our message. And here we have a picture of the mayors. The only one missing there, had to come back early, was Mayor Rothschild. But the lady in the middle is Madam Secretary of State, and she's the niece of former President Salinas Gortari. And her apparently yields a lot of power, I think more than our Secretary of State here. Under her are the Director of Energy, of Transportation, of Aduanas, I think a couple more offices. And so we were able to sit down and have them all together sitting on the same table. I guess here I got a few more of the other highlights, but this one is the one that, of course, this is yours truly trying to put the charm on Madam Secretary to maybe have her come down and visit one of these days. But in the room that we presented our proclamation, she has her staff, the secretaries, I guess, like I said, or directors of the aduana sitting on this side, the mayors sitting on this side. But it was very, very friendly, respectful, and mutual understanding that we kind of formed, or I guess more than likely reinforced goodwill, good relationships, and hopefully we'll continue to work under those basis. But she's very open, she's very agreeable. She liked the message we took, and And that night before, when we met with all business leaders and whatnot, we had an entourage of about 40 people. So a lot of the stakeholders from Arizona also met with us, and I was amazed. We didn't really get together and plan things out, but they were playing porra and everything else for us, making us look, you know, like we were the top officials of the nation. But we were leading Arizona, and they welcomed us. They were glad to hear the new message that Arizona is ready to. And as you read the proclamation, you'll be able to see that what we stated, that we want good relationships with Mexico, and we're going to be doing our part. And so hopefully, who knows, maybe in the near future, she might decide when she comes visit the United States, she'll stop by here in Nogales, Arizona. It'd be a great honor to have her. And so, if anything, we're, you know, one of the things that I was amazed with the leadership in Mexico, her undersecretary, not only did he receive a degree up there in Mexico at Iberoamerican University, but also here in Chicago, also received up in England. So some of these folks speak better English than I do, than some of us that went up there. It's unbelievable how highly educated they are, and not only are they bilingual, but they speak other languages too. So the Mexican leadership is really out there in the open. I think they're reaching out to be a global power, and I think Mexico's got they're headed in the right direction, and it's really good to be a part of them, to be a part of negotiating and doing business with them. And so I think in the future, a lot of good things are going to happen here in Nogales, mostly because we're right here, the gateway. They're interested in our strategic point, and I think that they'll be sending a lot of business down our way. And so hopefully, maybe a couple of years down the road, we won't be so worried about being strapped to our finances. Hopefully, maybe we'll be getting a lot more business, a lot more retail, and who knows? The thing is to work, continue to do our part. I'm always glad that our councilwoman, Mrs. Lopez, has always kept a good relationship with Mexico through the consul. The consuls were marvelous. The consul from Phoenix was up there. He kind of was at every meeting with us, led us along the way, and was really a good friend to have on our side. I'm very proud and happy to have the consuls work so close, not only with us, but with the American consulate. They're doing a great job, real diplomats. So I just wanted to kind of shed a little light on that trip. It was very worthwhile. It was a great investment. I was the only one to go from the city on that one. But the other important thing, not only did we bond with Mexico, but I felt I bonded with the other mayors. Our community was the smallest one that was represented. There was Mayor Stanton from Phoenix, Mayor Rothschild from Tucson, Mayor John Giles from Mesa, and Mayor Doug Nichols from Yuma, and Mayor Sharon Walcott from Surprise. And of course, I was the sixth mayor. So there was a bonding, and I was really glad, and it just encouraged me more to go out and continue to form those strong relationships here within Arizona with the leadership of Arizona, because I think we're all working to bring not only to our communities but to the whole region, the trade and the commerce that Mexico is going to be producing. Because, like I said, Mexico's on the go, and I think we're gonna be blessed by it. So that's my report for that trip. Thank you very much. As we go now to the last item on the agenda, I believe it's future agenda items. I guess pretty much we have something here.
Yeah, I have the agenda for today. Looking at the City Streets of Improvement Plan program for the year 2015 and 2016. And I see a lot of good streets here, 10 times better than Durango and the streets in back of Nogales. And they're not here on this list here. So,
I don't think that's really set in concrete.
What list are you referring to?
Durango,
No, what list are you
Edwards,
looking at?
and
No, what,
Veracruz.
what list are you looking
I'm
at?
looking at 215,
The budget?
2016 City of Nogales Street Improvement Program.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's just was something to give direction, right? It wasn't, I mean, you work on it, you get all the, but things tend to change over time. It's not something set in concrete. If, say because of, well, the weather, different elements should bring another city, another street down in the city, we're gonna give that priority to whatever we have there, right?
So what is set in concrete, but not unchangeable, and, you know, is what was approved in the budget. And all we need to do, if there's a change to that, all we need to do is put an item on your agenda as a council, it's your budget, have a discussion that needs to happen, but as a council, you amend that, you know, that list, you reprioritize if times have changed in the course of the year, and that happens. All we need to do is get the item out on the city agenda, on the city council agenda, and reprioritize that, you know, that list. The budget document is really what, it's kind of, you know, that's the arrow pointing the way for city staff. If the document itself had a list of roads to be repaired in the course of that year, and it does, those are the streets that are gonna really, you know, kind of be on the forefront of our mind as staff. So if that needs to change direction, all we need to do is just get an item in the, you know, out on the agenda, and you guys give us the, you know, the reprioritization.
It's a known area to be flooded and damaged to a lot of areas. So that's why I'm bringing it up, it's not here.
You'll notice
So
that on that memo that I gave you for your study session, there is an item on there where you're reprioritizing street repairs as identified in the budget for HERF, for your HERF fund. So I had a previous conversation with the mayor about the process. Well, this is how we would get it done. We'd start talking about that and get something in front of you for formal action as a council.
Any more questions or items? Okay, well, I guess then, that pretty much, takes care of, this meeting, so I now adjourn the city council meeting.